Good evening and welcome, practice owners. This is sort of a special edition recording. Had a lot of requests for, in the current situation, what can we do now? Some very, how do I want to say it, almost sometimes very dramatic questions and outpouring. So I reached out to one of the people that I really trust to get people through things. He's worked with thousands and thousands of practice owners. You probably recognize him, Gary Kadi from NextLevel Practice. So, Gary, you look nice and at least cozy quarantined in Arizona.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Steve, for your kind words and for putting this on. I'm very grateful to be here with you so we can serve our great industry. Yeah, I'm out here in Arizona. I actually live in the Upper West Side of Manhattan, so we were able to get out of here and be out west here and in a safer space. So my heart and prayers and thoughts go out to all the people that are listening here that are, have family on the front lines or doing work in their dental practice or have been affected by this this pandemic. We all have, obviously, whether it's physically, financially, or the disruption in our practices. So it's a time for compassion, a time for patience, and a time for tolerance. And as you and I know, this is an important time where we come together to help each other through this, and that's why I'm grateful to be here with you today.
Well, and just to let anybody who's watching or listening in know, Gary and I had a conversation. We talk a lot as this has sort of progressed, and he's one of the people that I really count on to bounce things off of, and also to take the pulse of practices. Gary works with a lot of practices of all different shapes and sizes, and we'll save that for another conversation. But just trust me, Gary works with some of the most unique dental practices in the country, so he has a feel for how they work, what they do, and in the conversation, he was telling me about the calls he's getting. My email is overflowing. And so we decided to come up with an idea that we called, that's based on something he already does, his launch program, but sort of retool it and give it a different name. And we call it a recovery blueprint. So normally I think, Gary, this would be your yearly plan. January 1st, 2020, you sat down, you did your launch, your sort of the 3 steps that you walk docs through. They plan their year out and off they go. Well, along comes March, and that all just gets, thrown into a tailspin. So we'll talk about that here in a second, but I think that the idea and the concept behind this is a recovery blueprint. So you plan a recovery, you plan to get back up and going the same way you plan a normal year. It's just, you modify it a little bit. And I think you're going to talk about your 3 steps and what docs can do right now I can't even remember the day. I know it's either Wednesday or Thursday, but it's March 25th. And what you can do right now, a couple weeks before, we get our next milestone of what's happening, but what they can do today, lay the groundwork for when they reopen, and very possibly, if they do it right, reopen stronger and better with a lot more momentum. So
Yep.
Is that about it? Is that anything you want to add about what we're going to accomplish today?
No, I think that really describes it. I think understanding that that we are in a crisis mode right now, I think that's really important. And I unfortunately have become an accidental expert in managing through crisis, Steve. As you know, personal crisis, family and personal stuff. But the real things is when I maneuvered practices through, when I lived downtown Manhattan through 9/11, where we had people passing away in the practices, family members, there's a whole like, what do I do? I've never had to experience this before. I've never been through this. We have a lot of millennial doctors that really haven't been around long enough to have 9/11 in their adult life, right? So, this is creating uncertainty for them. Then, of course, we had the challenge as well from New York, the Wall Street crash of mortgages and the financial crash, maneuvering through that. So, that's allowed me to really understand that I could be the calm in the storm and bring certainty to an uncertain world. And, one of our favorite quotes that we've been using is Mike Tyson. And he
Mhm.
says, plans are great until you get punched in the face, Steve.
Right.
That was a bad Mike Tyson, but hopefully Mike never
I don't
hears me do
know.
that, because I think Mike might give me a snot, a shot to the face anyway. But this is it's as we've spoken about this many times. It's the practitioners that plan through the transition period,
Mhm.
become solvent, make sure that they're solvent, make sure that they stay grounded, engage their team, engage their patients through this process. And then on the backside, it's not going to be business as usual. So those are going to be like the three elements. It's like
Okay.
solvency, stabilization, and surge on the backside. Because as you know, there's so many huge companies that launched in 2002 and 2009. And so that's for the practitioners that are forward thinking and want to not get stuck in their CNN conversations, and they want to break free and have a plan to get there. That's what we're here to talk about today.
Okay. And that, you really, this really is a good time. I know it's hard to see that as a practice owner in a cottage industry where, about 8.5 out of 10 practices are owned by one person. And it's hard to see that when you're that guy and suddenly you have employees you have to lay off and don't know. So I think that's the thing. You're spot on. Let's help through our conversation today, keep focused on the fact that this isn't about managing the demise of your practice. This is about managing the growth of your practice coming out of it. So
Exactly.
where do you want to start?
Well, I think the first place to start is safety. Let's, before we get into like the game plan and setting smart, let's, talk about SMART goals, Steve.
Okay.
SMART, we want to
And here's a little old school for you, Gary.
yeah, let's do old
For
school.
anybody out there. SMART, this is SMART goal setting.
So thanks, Steve, we're kicking it old school here. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So let's break this down for you. So one of the things that we want to do here is the specific piece. Specifically, we want to make sure, obviously, you're safe, right? We're gonna let's take for granted at this point, you need to be, if you're seeing patients, you have to have N95s, you're gloved up, you got your PPEs, if you're even able to see people at this time. A lot of places are not able to do that, but let's just say you're safe, at this point, right? Let's get into the solvency piece, Steve. I think the first specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound is we need to build these out in 90-day goals. If you're thinking out past that at this point, we have to take it what we call 90-30-1-1. And what that means is the time bound is, let's just work in a 90-day during a crisis period. You're working during a 90-day period, because then what you have to do inside of that 90 days is do 3 30-day plans. Okay. So it's keep putting foundation over those 30-day plans. And it allows us to make decisions because we're gaining information, Steve, as you know, on a daily basis. So it's 90 days. We're going to do that today. 30 days. Then we're going to look at it every day, and every minute you want to have a ticker coming in to know what's happening so you can make decisions. So that's how we're doing it. And you want to be able to be plugged into a community. We've set a community together, Steve, of, every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific, being plugged in. So we're updating you on a regular basis, and we'll have that link for that session for people as well. So the first thing is 90-30-1-1 is key. Anything else you want to share about that, Steve?
No, I think you're spot on. I always I like have a way of saying, when we're we got a big journey, let's go as far as we can see. Once we get there, we'll look around, reevaluate, then take the next step and the next step. So while we are looking at finishing 2020 strong and profitable, which is entirely possible, we do need to, I think you're right on. Don't look at CE you can take to help you with, sedation the last half of the year. That doesn't help today, and it doesn't really lay the groundwork. So
Exactly.
I agree wholeheartedly. 90 days is your time frame right now.
That's right. So, and then the first thing is stabilizing your solvency. Across the U.S., there's been a lot of layoffs. People are now wondering whether they should lay off and if they're going to get that reimbursement. just to give you, as you'd mentioned, had to maneuver hundreds of practices in the past 2 weeks. 95% of them have laid their team off. 5% are hanging on, just kind of waiting to see for the end of the month. It's like that. So, right now, you'd rather have this be on the payroll of the government and the subsidies that are coming out for that, and being plugged into a group like the one that we built and knowing what's happening there is key, Steve. So, the 6201, which is the Family Leave Act, things like that, the details of all that, those are up to the minute things. But we're going to give you the big picture stuff today. Number one is your payroll. It's your biggest expense. I want to share with you the solvency recovery calculator that I built, Steve, and I think people would really appreciate that here. So the first goal is to be solvent. Goal number one is solvent for 3 months. So we believe that right now you should have your practice, meaning solvent. You should have the cash flow to cover you for 3 months. By the way, the average practice that we see is 1 month. So that's why you have to, how do you keep income coming in, and how do you reduce your expenses? Job number one is really, and as we give recommendations, please check with your state and local governments on unemployment, on some of these mentions that we're giving, because some are, we want to put a disclaimer in here that some have state guided situations. Some states are closed and you can take advantage of things, and some states aren't, so you can't. So you have to make decisions based upon a state. We want to give you the big bell curve where most people are in this conversation, but I did want to put that disclaimer, and that's why you want to be in communication with somebody, right?
Yep.
I want to share the solvency calculator with you, Steve, and this is really what I've been working through with practices on a daily basis, and this is where I want people to take a look. So you want to just look at this, and a simple equation is this. First, you put in your cash on hand. So that's what's in your bank. Let's call it 100,000 right now. Then you want to, this is a good time to audit your bank account. I know a lot of dentists, this is very interesting, still have outstanding checks, like many, many outstanding checks. Let's say this is 10,000. So you put in 10,000 here. So then that gives you your net cash on hand, which is going to be your 90,000. I'm sorry. That will, when you take out your outstanding checks, that means you have net amount of 90,000, right? Right. And then where you want to look at is, because you want to get your income side increased. So you want to take a look at your AR for insurance companies only here. Do not call patients the last week of March and even the first week of April. Give your patients space. We are going to give you solutions and how to do that. Timing is key here. You want to honor people in the massive economic uncertainty. But dang it, Steve, our Delta Dentals, our Humanas, our Blues, they're working. They're working
still
from home.
Right. They're still at their office. In fact, the funny thing is, Gary, and you and I have talked about this, and I do it with practices. Most of those people work from home anyway, already. Most of your claims people, they're already working from home. So they're still cranking it. I mean, so you see practices with all this money sitting in AR because they can't get to it. Now's the time to get to it.
Well, let me show you this, Steve. I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm able to plug in. If you have Dentrix, EagleSoft, or Open Dental, I can help you walk through this. I can plug our dashboard into your computer. So a lot of people have no reality on this, Steve. It's interesting and not. It's like you don't have to look at it until you need it. This is the dashboard when we plug into your unit. Can you see this, Steve, where it says collections board?
Yes, great.
So I could do this remotely from my screen. I could share your screen. We could set up one of your team members. Look at this. This practice has 624 patients past due. They have 262,000 past due. Total accounts receivable 385. And then look at this. The claims on this practice, 70 days. And I like to see it 45 or less. In fact, right now, I like to see it 15 or less. And so imagine being able, and I'm not going to pull it for HIPAA reasons. By the way, HIPAA is out the door. Did you hear this, Steve?
Yeah,
HIPAA's
all the penalties are suspended for 90 days, I think it is.
Yeah, 90 days. So this is the kind of stuff that Now I'm just going to honor this practice, but do you see this hamburger here, Steve? If I click that, it'll give me a list of every patient that's due. So now we got controls in place. So if you're going to set one of your team members up, we can see that, and the numbers go down and how much is collected. And we're actually recommending putting in an incentive plan to create urgency and put a little spunk under the trunk to get people moving,
Right.
as well. Because here's the thing. You want to get to this early and fast. You don't want to wait on this. You want to get there because all of a sudden the other dental practices are going to start waking up and everybody's going to be hitting up their insurance companies for the cash.
Mhm.
It's still early. You know, there's a lot of people, like when I put this out on a webinar yesterday, they're like, oh my gosh, that's a good idea. I know for you and I, it's a very simple idea.
Mhm.
When we work with our practices, this is the first place we go to see how well they're treatment planning. Because if you don't treatment plan right and you don't have a good conversion and a treatment coordinator and a good system, you're going to see high AR like this practice here.
Mhm.
So imagine being able to plug in, do it remotely, set your team member up. We can observe it and we can know whether they're doing it or not. Having good scripts are key on how to overcome, you know, the barriers of like, oh, I didn't get that film, I didn't get this. Like really hunker down and be a master at this right now.
Well, I think the other important thing to recognize, and a lot of our practice owners who might be listening, AR is just a foreign thing. Somebody takes care of that. It's magic money coming in. But the number you just showed is hundreds of thousands of dollars that is
Yep.
sitting out that's for work you've done, money
Yep.
that's owed you. And
Yep.
as Gary said, you know, if you call a patient, they're going to say, you know, gee, times are tough. I just got laid off. I don't know. I can't pay you. So put them on the side. Don't think about them. But as far as insurance companies, most of that money is out there because of an administrative technicality. They
Yep.
didn't like the narrative, the coding they thought was funky. They emailed somebody back. You don't get to it. That's a lot of money sitting there that you get because of a phone call, an email, or some administrative change. So it literally is, it's your money. You've earned it, but it's not getting paid to you because of some little bookkeeping thing almost, to use the wrong term, but you get what I mean.
Yep.
So that money is sitting out there for you. So that's low hanging fruit. Take it now.
Yeah. So look what's happening here, Steve. If our SMART goals, number one is for the next 90 days to have a solvent business where you don't have to tap into your retirement. Now we look at your cash on hand. We take the outstanding checks. We get the net cash on hand. Then we get our AR. This practice has 190,000. Let's say we get this down because here's what's next. We look at how do you push out and get relief on all your expenses. And so you want to have systematic approaches to sending letters to your loan, you know, to the loans that you have, deferring it for 90 days. Your rent, by the way, knowing that they can't evict you in your town. I think almost every town, 90 days, 0 evictions. You know, you can push that out. You don't have to pay it. I see a lot of doctors right now not holding on to cash, and they don't know if they can make that decision, or they don't know. A lot of doctors have very caring, loving souls. And yeah, we want to have the flow of cash, but you can't go upside down right now with your retirement. So you want to protect that. So the 90-day plan is to do this. I added these in. I just did this with a doctor. So now we're good. If his overhead is, you know, let's say it's 60,000 a month, and that's high, should be high right now after you defer everything. 60,000, I'm covered for 3 months. You know, box number 1 is checked off and done. Right?
Yep.
You got me, Steve?
Yep.
So box number 2 is, so number 1 objective is solvency for 90 days. Box number 2 is to set up yourself for the future. This is where you invest in turning, my suggestion, turn your practice into we're seeing this everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't turn your practice into a complete health practice and shift, because if you land and you show up as business as usual with your systems, with your vision, purpose, and values, with your team in the same space, the patient's going to go, this is not a forward-thinking practice.
Right.
And, you know, I was talking to a doctor in Canada yesterday. He totally got this. He said to me, Steve, he said, Gary, right now I have the time. You know, he said, we were talking about, he said, you know, Shakespeare, he's a, you know, English major. He's like, Shakespeare, was quarantined during the plague, and he wrote King Lear. This is when we need to invest, and we have the time and the mental space. Once you get your solvency and you're not worried about money, you know, because we might go back before 90 days, but now you're set up, right? Now you dig in and you build the practice of your dreams now, and you do the work now. You stabilize and strengthen now. And so setting your practice up for the future is number two. And how do we make that specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time? The next 90 days is when you invest in four things. The purpose of your practice. So what is the purpose of the practice? You know, why do you do what you do? If you get that we're not selling yachts in Kansas, Steve, we're selling healthcare, then we are where the puck is going to be, right?
Right.
So just repackaging your practice, going from a drill, fill, and PPO mill to a whole body health practice where the mouth and the body are connected, having a larger purpose. And the purpose could be something like the go-to practice in your town to look better, feel better, and be healthier in a place that honors, you know, all the things that, all the new levels of standard that we have to put in on the backside for a patient being healthy. Blood pressure, temperature, you know, we're working on finger prick for coronavirus. Like we're right in line with that. So having all these elements in place, even when, you know, the backside of this, not 100% of people are going to be cured of the coronavirus. And we don't know if we're going to have, you know, drugs for treatment, and we don't know if we're going to have a vaccine, but we'll at least have diagnostics to make it safe for them and us, right? So purpose is number one. Number two is process. This is where you build your process. This is where you look at how you're processing things and have your processes all built, and your team is, you know, a lot of them will volunteer to learn about this. And if you have a distance learning company that's already built this way to give you that information, they could sit in the comfort of their house and invest, because 99% of our team members are going to come back to the practices that they were in. Right? Most of them. By the way, before this, we had a problem with unemployment. It was so low, we couldn't get good team members. You also want to recruit, and that's the third P, which is people. You want to have the right people in the right places doing the right things. I know this is counterintuitive, like you just laid people off, but you can also relook at and say, you know, I'm playing for an A team. Who's on my team, who's not? And you got to get straight about that, you know? And we always want to bring team members along. We always want to get them to step up. I think there's been a shift in entitlement versus gratitude with regard to working now. I think employees are going to have, I know my employees are grateful to be working right now when all of their friends and family are laid off. They're all working. You know, I think that there's like a seismic shift in, you know, gratitude. So far we have shift your purpose and write your vision, purpose, and values. And it's not like the thing that's hanging in what I call the hallway of amnesia. You know, the hallway of amnesia, Steve. They said yes in the back. They walk down the hallway of amnesia, and in the front they go, what are we talking about?
Yeah, the treatment. In fact, I'm going to give you credit. I've used that many, many times, Gary. I don't know if you wrote it but I'm stealing it from you. So I'm giving you.
Good. Well, what's mine is yours, brother, and what's mine is the people on this call. I want to give them what to do so that they can go do this out on their own. I want them to be able to go, hey, here's a solvency calculator, go do this. Here's here's how you want to be thinking about the stabilization. Again, rewrite your purpose. Have it be about where the puck is going to be, which means people are going to have their attention on health. Make your practice about health. That's your purpose. Then you want to get processes in. There's 3 processes, Steve, that I want to talk about. Care, it's called care. And we do this and we set up the care system. Case acceptance, retention, and the experience in new patient. Can I go back to my dashboard again, Steve? I want to show this to you. All right. So here's the deal. So I'm going to go to the performance board. There's 3 ways to build a practice, right? And most people don't understand this. And you know what? This is shut down, so that's why it's off. Let me see if I get February for this practice.
And this also, your dashboard is a thing that you use with, I know all your clients, but it's something you could talk to. If anybody had a question about what is this dashboard and where do I get it, you'd be glad to talk to them about it.
Oh yeah, we can plug it right in at no cost to them and share all this with them for sure.
This
So
plugs in, excuse me, this plugs into their, if they're on EagleSoft or PracticeWorks or whatever.
nope. Only
What's in
three. I
there?
want to be clear here.
Okay.
Dentrix, EagleSoft, Open Dental, not PracticeWorks or SoftDent.
Okay.
Dentrix, EagleSoft, or Open Dental. I'm going to share my screen with you, Steve. And I want to really, this is what people don't understand, that they have so much dentistry to do inside their practice and their systems just aren't working well. 3 ways to build a practice, okay? So I want to just show, I'm going to show you the capacity of a practice. Can I do that first with you?
Yes. This is your, you call
Lost
this
lost revenue.
Yes. I
Yes.
love this. Yeah.
So Steve, this is key because most people aren't looking at their practice this way. And because they're not, they don't think they have enough inside their practice now. And I just want to, again, we're all right, we got you solvent. Now we're talking about stabilizing and preparing your practice so that you come out at the other side with the right strategy, because you don't want to go back as business as usual. All right, so here's the key. What you want to do is you want to understand, and they could just do this, or we can have us do it with them. I'm going to walk you through it. So let's say you're a PPO practice and your case acceptance system. That's the first system, Steve, right? Case acceptance is the value of a crown and a buildup. Do you see my screen, Steve?
Yes, you're good.
900 and 200. 900 for a crown, PPO fees, 200 for a buildup, $1,100. That's the value of a crown, or the value of a crown, which is the value of case acceptance when you have a good system. Now, while you're down for the next 30, 60, or 90 days and you build this system, using distance learning and education, and you train your team on it, when they come back, they're going to know how to increase their case acceptance.
Yeah.
Then 2 pro fees, let's say they're 75 each, 2 exams. This is patient retention. Most people don't have their intention on patient retention.
Mm-hmm.
It's always on new patient acquisition only. That's important. But let's look at what you have under your roof. Patients come back twice, 2 pro fees, 2 exams, set of bite wings, $300. If I add 110 plus 300, that's 1,400, Steve. And if I take the 1,400 times, let's just say you have 1,000 patients, right? Let's just say you have 1,000 patients. That's 1.4 million bucks. This practice is doing 500 to 600,000, Steve. When we first get in there and highlight them, the strategy changes. On the backside of this, take care of your existing patients is the strategy. That is the message. But if you don't know how much you have by looking at it from this equation, you're not going to take this approach.
Right. It lets
Clear?
you know what you're capable of doing. And you've used this, I think you told me, on 6,000, 5,000 different practices.
6,000 practices every time.
Comes out, and everybody's first response is, that's impossible, can't be done. I've been in business 20 years. All I need is new patients. Get me more new patients and, everything will be fine. And what you're able to do with your clients, which I think is the message here, this isn't, do what Gary does. This is Gary telling you what he does. But you're able to take a lot of practices, and I think you even reduce the patient count, the active patient count, but produce more, because you're
well, that's what all the doctors want. The doctors want to do better dentistry and more dentistry on existing patients, but they're doing it at a surface at a time, and that's why they're running on roller skates all the time. It's inefficient. And when you turn your practice from a standard drill, fill, and bill, or do a surface a year, or a crown a year, if you're in that mold, breaking free from that and offering the value proposition being about longevity, health and wellness, the mouth-body connection, then all of a sudden investment into treatment has different impacts. It's bigger than the mouth and just reactive care from a symptomatic condition. Here's what patients are being trained in right now, Steve. This is so important. How many people that have coronavirus are asymptomatic? Mm-hmm. Now we have something correlate that we can explain. You have an asymptomatic disease in your mouth. And that's what we treat, because we don't want you to be like those people. We want you to be ahead and be healthy proactively and preventively, and that's who we are. Let's look at the numbers and how they mesh out. I just showed you the capacity, Steve. Do you see my performance board here?
Yes.
Look at this. Once the case acceptance system's up, it's 67% case acceptance, not 31%. If you take this number and move it to 67, I just added $58,000 by just changing the lever of case acceptance of something I can control by the team, by doing the right thing to the patient, and by putting an education system in, letting the patient choose, not selling them dentistry, but having a good, effective communication system. Look at this. If it's at 31 and I want to get it to 62, let's say, just take 58 times 2. Imagine if I added 58,000 to your number per month. Now, let's say I'm crazy and I do half of that. I just added $30,000.
Right.
Now let's go to the next thing. Look, hygiene's good here, 62%. I'm good there. But look at this number. Retention's horrible. 74 patients on the front end. A lot of people go, well, I'm really cranking. I got 74 patients. But look what's going on. Yeah, you recaptured 11 from dormant people. They lost 62 in the month of February here, Steve. Because what happens is we track how many patients are lost at 18 months and 1 day inside of that month. That's the net number. 74 plus 11 is 85 minus 62, net number 23, inefficient. This is why hygiene schedules are not filled and you're getting 74 patients in the month. Do you see how this all works?
I do. I also have a quick observation on the new patient, something you wrote down here about retention. And I think a lot of practices and practice owners, docs, don't appreciate that. And I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but, let's just say it costs $200 to attract a new patient.
Yeah.
It costs a fraction of that to keep a patient and do more for them, add some treatment in. So that's how you're able to lower your active patient base, but increase your production. Plus, if, in this current situation, Gary, if your standard growth plan involves just new patients, over 90 days, and then once, we start getting back to whatever our new normal is, 90 days from now, day 91 through the end of the year, if your whole strategy is around new patients, you're going to have some problems. So your growth plan needs to be around something more than just how do I get a whole bunch of new patients to get this practice up and going? Because there's a lot of people who are doing that. In fact, more.
Well, the recare conversation is a much easier conversation than a new patient because they have no clue with the philosophy of the practice. And by the way, I would treat every patient as a new patient going forward. Because you reinvent your purpose, you reinvent your process, you reinvent your people, and then the last part is you reinvent your business and put platforms in. Those are the 4 Ps inside of this stabilization plan, Steve. So just to reiterate, SMART goal number 1, solvency for 90 days. SMART goal number 2 is stabilize and strengthen your business in the 4 key areas of purpose, process, people, and then the platforms. I'm showing you platforms. We have another platform which is key, and I want to share that right now, which is how do you put all this stuff in place? And I'll share mine. There's others that people have available, or some doctors have so much time that they want to create their own, which is kind of cool, like a training center, if you will, for themselves. But some people don't want to be involved in like actually reinventing the wheel. So, there's different learning management systems, and I want to share this one just to give you like what's available, Steve, for people. I think it's really important. And this platform is extremely valuable. We're getting tons of calls for this one, which is really for what to do with your team now and getting them trained up. So I'm going to share my screen. May I do that?
Yes, please.
All right, great. So this is a GabeWorks platform I built 7 years ago, and it has over 500. This is me as a millennial. I knew I had to millennialize myself, Steve.
The bow looks great.
So I always wanted a hologram of myself so I can expand being everywhere. So this is how I did it. 7 years ago, I realized that the millennials don't like learning the way you and I did sitting in a seminar room. So I said, you know what, we got to do something different. And GabeWorks G stands for gamification. So I'm going to show you how we gamify this and make it fun for you and the team. A stands for accountability. That means that we're holding you accountable. We know on the back end of this who's training on what, so you can track who's training. Pretty cool, especially during times of distance learning now. B is behavior dash. I showed you the behavior dashboard. See, we don't look at that as an analytic dashboard, Steve. It's a behavior dashboard because it tells us the behaviors of your team. Like, how much is that person collecting? You're going to be able to see that. We can run this whole thing from the smartphone. You know, everything that we're showing you is run from the smartphone, and E stands for the Engaged Learning Center. So we make learning really fun. One of the things I really love is this thing called Dentflix over here. Dentflix is Netflix. Don't watch Netflix. Watch your Dentflix, man. Dentflix and chill. And then look what happens. You could be training your team right here. If you have a team leader, your associates, your dental assistants, your hygienist, everything is trained. And so if you have hygienists, they have, you know, countless hours of training here that allows them to become better complete health hygienists, or we call hygieniuses, really reinventing the role. So, you know, it's really cool to be able to, you know, just go through and teach them new things, and they're doing it in the comfort of their home, and it's done by position. So that's really cool. Then the next thing is to be aware of is this complete health curriculum, Steve. This is, we have boot camp. So like this teaches you how to do everything. This is everything in 88 minutes here and 161 minutes broken out into two. It's a boot camp on how to set your business up into a complete health practice. We have increasing case acceptance, onboarding and maximizing associates, recare optimization, owning numbers. You know, so it's really like a comprehensive, like I said, there's 500 hours of training and development inside here that allows, you know, practices to go to work. Now, we also have 4 or 5 years of virtual classes. Each month we have virtual classes. So we have Complete Health TV. We have Complete Health TV for clinical only. We have Lead Pioneers. This is community service work that has been done for many, many years, which is really powerful. You can see I have 5 years worth of work here done once a month. So it's, you know, you can binge watch this and really set up somebody really doing work out in the community. Because right now, community service is going to be really important. What are you doing in the community right now? Right. Yeah. So, you know, and then there's years worth of stuff. You know, we have Oral Systemic Health Week every October. Planning now for this October for Oral Systemic Health Week. We do 5Ks. We do work in schools. Like, this is already done for you, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So it's already done in training. Everything is done via video and then download as well. So you have all the tools, all the resources, everything that you need here. So it's really pretty cool platform.
So you're pushing right now, once you get your clients, you talk them through solvency, know your solvency, stabilizing your business today, because team members are changing, the whole dynamic's changing. And then expand, if they're already a complete health practice, use this time to do exactly that. Use this time to learn some things that you know, invest in a couple hours of some courses that turn into better treatment planning, that kind of thing as you go. So you're saying that assistants, hygienists, office managers, they can view these from anywhere with an internet connection and a browser.
That's right.
They don't have to come into the office to train up or to use this time wisely. They can do that somewhere else. Okay.
And if the practice is, they're basically retaining their people, you can't make your people do this and your team do it, but so many of them want something to do right now. Right. And if you can, you know, proactive communication and giving them direction and actually holding weekly meetings, we have we have practices holding 2 weekly meetings each week. Every Monday, what we do is we gather all the information as a community and package it. Then we have the webinar, the weekly, what can I do now, up to the minute reporting on what's happening. That webinar happens 4 o'clock every Tuesday. You and I are panelists on that. We're bringing the latest to them. Then what teams are doing is doing Zoom calls on Wednesday, because now they've gathered everything. And then Thursday and Friday they're training, and then they're coming back on Friday for happy hour, actually doing a social happy hour on Friday after they've trained throughout the week, and they share what they've learned. And so it's really a nice way to come, because you can actually, in a lot of states, you can actually reduce people's salaries and this is also happening, 20% and still go in and get unemployment. So there's so many different things that are happening. But again, it's based upon state and individuals. You know, some people, we have a lot of people doing emergency still. And so, you know, those people are working and they need something while they're sitting waiting for the phone to ring because they're on call. They're doing this type of training.
So I know you use this with your clients, and I don't think this isn't something you do outside. I mean, you can't just sign up for GabeWorks, but is there something that, you know, if somebody, they can do this themselves, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, they got a blueprint, so to speak, on recovery. You know, and I really want to thank you for sort of sharing that and lining it out. And, you know, you could do it yourself. I always think of it, Gary, like you know, going to Home Depot and I'm going to remodel a bathroom, and they've got a TV monitor there in the tile aisle, shows me how to lay tile in a bathroom. And man, it's easy. The guy does it in like 20 minutes while you're standing there in the aisle. But then you get the tile home and you think, okay, this is really neat in concept. I just need to pay somebody to do the tile. Do you, you know, I don't know how to, I guess, are you taking new clients, or are you full clients? Or are you doing I know your launch program is really an abbreviated thing. It's 3 1-hour sessions. Is that how it works?
Yeah,
So,
we like to get we like to get related and aligned before they go into coaching.
okay.
We've had such a demand for people just wanting coaching. We are offering that program as a separate, but my recommendation, the steps to take, you know, now that we have the 3 goals, 1 is solvency, 2 is stabilization, 3 is really the longer range goals. We didn't get into that in today's session. It's almost too much for people right now.
Yeah.
But I think if they have step 1 and step 2 goals, the best way to do it is really for us to get related. And I created a what I call a recovery blueprint. It's 3 sessions. It's I'm doing them on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll get the link here for them, and it's a low cost. I'm actually doing it as a gift at half price. Usually I charge $9.95 for that. You are working with me. It's $4.95 because during these challenging times we wanted to pass along the savings. And it's beautiful because I actually walk you through everything we discussed on today's session. We make sure you can ask questions. It's 2-way dialogue. It's done in a beautiful small group format, and it's just really powerful for people. And it gets people back on track and moving forward. Just hanging out, people have reported, Steve, that the certainty that I have because I've been through this, they get to plug into that confidence and certainty, and it helps them walk through easier. And then the content is just what they needed to hear, and then what actions to take, because a lot of people are afraid to make decisions right now, and helping them make decisions is really a part of it too. And then once we get done with those 3 sessions, then if they choose, then they can plug into other options, which we have deferred payments on and things like that GabeWorks program like that. But it's really important to set yourself up and get your headspace clean and your practice stabilized before you start slinging out training and all that stuff, because you can't think straight. If your money ain't right, you can't join the fight and you can't move forward.
Right. And what did you say, $4.95?
$495, yeah. So we made it accessible to all people, and just getting the certainty and just being a part of a community and plugged into a community of access is a huge value for people, and then getting the actions to take is really valuable too.
And it is live with you online live.
Yeah, so it's a group format. We're doing it like this. You can share your video or not. You know, some people are introverted and they don't feel comfortable with it, and we make it safe for them. They could just have their audio, whatever they choose, and yeah, I like to get related with people. I like to see them and know them, but if they choose not to, they'll have the ability to do that. We're doing things like teledentistry. I mean, imagine offering teledentistry at this point. Pretty amazing on what we can, do. These are all the solutions that are coming up really fast. That because you're a part of a community, you get access to stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, and we will. I'll make sure we have that link put in here, and then share that out so people can get in touch with you. And this is, I really, really, really appreciate you coming on, and I know your time is, I know you're slammed. So, as we all are at this time. And Gary, you and we're not dentists. We grew up in the business world. So this is part of the package this is, this is what you do every day, especially when you're a small business owner. Our clients, our readers, my readers and listeners and viewers, I've heard a lot of them say, I've heard this 100 times in the last 2 weeks, I didn't sign up for this. This isn't what I wanted to do. I want to see patients. And, unfortunately, you literally, you can see some emergency patients, but you can't see patients. And there's this, overwhelming need to just want to do that. But you also have an opportunity to step back. And as you said, the purpose of your practice, how you see your business and your practice, that's not something you can delegate to an office manager. And I think,
that's the problem, Steve. A lot of dentists really rely on their team leaders and office managers for strategy, and that's not their expertise. Their implementation and execution, they're not strategists, and they usually rely on that. And that's usually the number one thing. And it's like, so many team leaders come to me and go, Gary, thanks for giving us the strategy. And now I could just go deploy it. That's all I want to do. I don't know how to figure all this stuff out, so that's the difference between strategy and tactics and, thinking and implementation, especially now. If you've never been through something like this, like a crisis, you're not going to know how to maneuver through it. And it's, you're just going to be making it up as you go. And you don't want to do that right now. You want to rely on somebody who's done it before.
And I think the key is we will get through this one way or the other. But it's not, it's not by accident. It's by intention. And, if you go home and binge watch, Game of Thrones and, cut your grass a couple times and then expect to just go back to your practice the way it was in, 30 days or 60 days or whatever, those I think are the practice owners who are going to struggle. You think?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough thing. The world isn't the same. It won't be the same when you get back. And the ones who kind of fix it now, I think, are the ones who will survive and thrive. And, somebody who's just sitting at home watching Game of Thrones, hoping that it gets better and, counting on their practice owner or their practice manager to tell them, tell me when it's okay to come back and start seeing patients. You could see a business crumble. Your business may not come back. So, yeah. So any parting thoughts with, again, these practice owners that are just the desperation and, I don't know what to do and, wanting to do something right now to make sure they shore up their business for when they get back. What's your parting thought?
My favorite quote, and I used it before this, is never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens could ever change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has, Steve. Mm-hmm. And, working together with people. And I in my meditation with my wife yesterday, it was like, it spoke about the giver, the receiver, and the gift. Mm-hmm. During this time, if you're usually a giver, become a receiver. If you're a receiver, become a giver. And we all have a gift. Tap into those gifts to get through this time. And when you do that, you'll come out the other side. So I really love the giver, the receiver, and the gift. So I'll leave you with that.
I, for one, and I think I can speak for our listeners, appreciate your gift today, your time and your, experience and having lived through this. And, just the ability to put a little hope out there that while it's difficult, it's not the end of the world, but there are things you can do to, put yourself better on the other side. So, great. Well, Gary, I'm going to let you get back. I know your day is really full. And again, thanks for coming on and thanks for the offer. You should see that on the right side of your screen. There's a button that will take you to a link and go through if you want to reach out to Gary or just, bounce something off of him or take advantage of the recovery blueprint package, sort of a modified launch, which I would strongly encourage just to sort of get your head right and know that you're stronger when things get back to somewhat normal or new normal. So with that, we're going to sign off. And Gary, thanks again for coming on.
Brother Steve, love you. Love all the listeners. Prayers out to everybody and hope to see you all soon. Take care.
See you next time.
Bye, Steve.